welcome back to a new video. So today was a little bit different if I'm being 100% honest. So the original plan was actually to do heavy barbell pressing, and I'll be real with you guys, I just wasn't feeling super strong today, but I wanted to still hit my chest, and that's the big thing about it. So we're having a reverse band, incline press. So the big thing about it here is we're trying to actually overload our pecs as much as humanly possible. So this is what I do, especially if you want more hypertrophy out of your sets. It's something that I really recommend if you are really trying to build your chest. It's not the greatest for strength, but if you are trying to build your chest, it's something that I would really recommend. It's something that has changed my life, if I'm being 100% honest, especially if, I'm trying to put on as much size on my chest as humanly possible. So yeah, we did a lot of sets, a lot of sets. Just trying to get as much volume as humanly possible into our chest. And that's the big thing about it. We're not messing around. We want those freaking double Ds. That's all we want more than anything. That is what we're going for. We want those pecs that literally scream, where people are like, holy shit. It's like people don't realize how important the chest is, especially it's the centerpiece of a physique, and that's the big thing about it. So you want to have a big, impressive chest, and let's be honest, we all grew up watching Arnold and stuff like that, and let's be real, that's what catches our eyes, is the chest. So I definitely recommend. So on today, I started off on a higher incline, and then I moved down to a slightly lower incline, and then a very low incline. So that's the big thing about it. I honestly find this is the greatest way to, it's one of my favorite movements, if I'm being real with you guys. I'm just wanting to overload as humanly possible. So you can see that, I've got a pretty good tempo, so I'm trying to go slow on the way down and just kind of create a good tempo. I also sometimes like to take a bit of a breather at the top. I find for me, it allows me to get myself collected and allows me to get back into the rhythm again. It's something that actually has really helped me. I know some people are against it and like that, but for me, I've always found I can kind of squeeze my chest, get all ready to go, and also take a deep breath, especially when you're under a bigger load and stuff like that. You want to be able to, you don't want to burn out, especially when you're doing higher reps. You do not want to burn out. I think that's the last thing that you want to do, is burn out. Let's be 100% honest. You don't want to be halfway through and be like, oh shit, I've burnt out. So I've always found that, don't try and rush your sets. Honestly, the more time under the tension of the muscle, the better it is. And that's kind of how I see it when it comes down to it. We're not in a rush, and that's the big thing. Some people try and rush their workouts as much as possible, and I try and milk my sets as much as possible if I'm trying to get them out. And we're just banging them out. Banging them out. We're just trying to grow as much as possible. And I've been focusing on strength, don't get me wrong. But it's also good to have don't get me wrong, I'm focusing on building muscle, but I've been focusing on blowing up my bench. So this is definitely not the usual training that I've been doing for my main bench press day. But honestly, I can't complain. I cannot complain because realistically, I'm still having a good time. My chest is super sore. I'm doing the audio later on and like that in my chest. I'm definitely feeling it. My chest is definitely beat. We always just want to get the biggest, and I mean the biggest chest humanly possible. And I think in total, I did about 10 sets. So I did a crazy amount of volume, And some people are so against that. But for me, I would rather focus on, not doing as many exercises, but put all my effort into a few exercises. I've always found better results that way, if I'm being honest, because a lot of the exercises become repetitive anyways. So it's might as well just focus on a certain exercise that day. That may be incline barbell, that may be an incline hammer strength press, or and that's kind of how I see it. It's also let's be real. You're gonna have to do those same old exercises. If you don't love to train, this is not something that you're going to be in it for the long run. And that's the big thing about it. You've got to learn to be hey, I love this. This is what makes me tick. And a lot of people are oh, I don't want to be doing this much volume. I'm the more you do, the better. It's don't get me wrong, there is diminishing returns, but you also have to be able to recover from it. But if your body can recover from it and you're able to like be like, hey, I can hit my shoulders again, freaking hit them. You know, realistically, I believe one of the biggest indicators of like growing is actually, it's not, the types or anything like that. I think it's actually more frequency more than anything. How much you're able to actually hit the muscle per week. I think that over time adds up, and a lot of people don't realize how much it does add up, and that's the big thing about it. Which a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not like, But yeah, so this is one of my favorite movements. It's like a JM press mixed with a shoulder press. So it's like you're mixing like a tricep extension with like a shoulder press. Oh my lord, if you guys want bigger triceps, this is the way to go. Like there's no other way to get bigger arms, in my honest opinion. I think this is honestly an underrated exercise. I love doing it. I'm actually doing it in a hip thrust machine because I said, why not? It's got a good, like, you want to have a slight incline, so you don't have to be, you want to be like completely 90 degrees, which you can, but I find having a slight incline definitely works really well. It really does. So you can see, I'm going to like my forehead and stuff like that. So there is a bend in the elbow, so I'm bending at the elbow here. But I'm not like doing like, a tricep extension here. So I think it's a really good way to actually overload your triceps and to get a deep stretch on them at the same time, which, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know. I JM press is the only way. Yes, but you can also do different variations, and I think that's where it's like you got to shock the muscle. And like this is one of my favorites, if I'm being real with you guys. And people ask me, hey, what do you do for your triceps? Like this is one of the movements that I actually overload my triceps on, if I'm being real with you. Like I usually work up to even sometimes 2 plates. Like this is like a plate, and like that's like 205. Of course, we banged out some freaking skull crushers, because why not? Skull crushers are the way to go. But like I don't think I filmed a lot, if I'm being real with you. I think honestly my camera was getting pretty full, so I ended up doing laterals, like a whole bunch of cable laterals after. But yeah. All right, guys. So that was like today's workout. So it was a little unorthodox, if I'm being 100% honest. It was not exactly what I was planning for, but it did hit the spot. It did hit the spot. The only thing I did not film was my side lateral raises, because I want wider shoulders. Because let's be 100% honest, who in the world does not want the bolder shoulders? Let's be real with you. But yeah, usually I haven't done like, so people ask me why I do the band. So when I'm doing the band on, the Smith machine, what I'm doing, I'm trying to overload my eccentric. So basically it's, imagine, okay, the weight is like 315 on the way down, and then right off the chest, it's like, 300, maybe 290 range, and then it goes back up to 315. So it's a really good way. It's actually a better pattern for you to actually engage the muscle a little bit more. It's not great for strength-wise, but it's actually amazing for building muscle. And I was originally supposed to like flat bench, go heavy, but my body was like, no, Ethan, you're not liking this. I tried to. I did a set of like 225. I was able to rep, but I was like, God damn, I'm feeling sore. So I just did a hypertrophy day, So people don't realize that, like, they're like, oh, I can't build muscle if it's like after 8 reps. No, you can build a lot of muscle, if I'm being 100% honest. You can build muscle at like 5 reps or 30 reps. Like realistically, you just gotta be taken to failure. And if your body's like, hey, I'm not feeling super strong, up the reps. Up the freaking reps. Do it. There's nothing holding you back. There's nothing wrong with it. Like everyone's like, oh, I have to. No, you don't. You really, really don't. And that's the big thing about it. Everyone's like, oh, I have to like be hitting, if I'm not hitting 8 reps, I'm not doing it. No, bro, just take a deep breath. Not every workout, like my strength will be up and down. Not every workout's going to be, you're going to feel like He-Man in the gym. And that's the big thing about it. You're really not. It's just reality. And like, that's the big thing about it. You can't change that. You really can't. But yeah, so today's workout, I actually did like some like close grip, like neutral grip, like, overhead press machine. And then I moved into incline Smith, because originally I was going to do barbell bench, like flat bench, which I just did not. And then after that I did, so it's like a JM press, but it's like basically like a shoulder press version of a jam press. So it's almost like a tricep extension, but it's also like a shoulder press at the same time, which is actually really freaking good. I recommend doing it. Honestly, I love it. It's one of the best movements for their triceps. And then of course I did side laterals because like who doesn't want the bigger delts? And it's just how it is. But yeah, I don't know. I got some like news that I'm like, realistically, we can't control what happens in our life and what doesn't happen. It's just how it goes. And it's like, we can control how we react to it. So it's like, I really wanted this job. Really wanted it more than anything, if I'm being 100% honest. I really, really did. But, I get a call and, like, they're, hey, you'd be a great candidate. Loved your energy and like that, but we decided to go a different direction, which is like, it's frustrating, of course, because especially when you were like manifesting, when you wanted something more than anything, when you did. But like, at the end of the day, all you can do is just be like, hey, I'm glad for the experience. When it comes down to it, it gave me more interview experience. It's just as simple as that. So, when we're trying our best, we're all just trying to become better versions of ourselves, mentally, physically. Like, that's what we're trying to do. That is what we're trying to do. But I'm really hoping that you guys can have the most amazing day. If you guys are enjoying the vlogs, so what I'm thinking about doing is I'm gonna do a workout vlog, and then I'm gonna do like a, more on like mental health stuff, like a video and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go alternate back and forth, back and forth. I'm gonna try and average about 3 to 4 videos a week. But yeah, if you guys enjoy my content, I would appreciate you guys actually subscribing, just enjoying this. This means a lot. I'm really trying to grow on YouTube because I'm from Canada actually, so I make no money on TikTok if I'm being 100% honest. I make 0 money if I'm being real, which is so frustrating. If I'm looking, like, I've got tons of videos that have millions of views, but I can't because I'm not the creator fund in Canada, which is like, why does Canada do that? It's really frustrating. We don't get money when we donate blood. We don't get money if we donate sperm. Creator fund. There's so many reasons why we don't make money, which is so frustrating, especially when our economy is getting harder and harder to live in, which is not ideal. Definitely not ideal. But so if you guys could start subscribing, it would mean the world to me, because I have to get to 1,000 subscribers and a certain amount of views to, start to monetize my videos. So I would really appreciate it. I appreciate anyone who's watched this video as long as you have. So I appreciate you guys. You guys have an amazing one.